We are back live on Facebook for the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show, the rental income property of the
week.
I am your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, the man that I like to call GC because he's got genius concepts, because he knows how to generate cash flow, because he's a great co-host, and because his name is Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be here with you.
It is fantastic to have you back on board with the show. It's fantastic to see our community dialing in here, right? Like we like to say around these parts that if you want to find out about owning rental income properties, you've come to the right place. If you want to find out about best in class property management for rental property investors, you are in the right place. If you want to get an edge on the Jacksonville market, which, by the way, I didn't realize how valuable that was to the audience until our fan appreciation show. Everybody talked about this like insight into the Jacksonville market. You're in the right place. Next place to go if you want a personalized advice, talk to one of our experts at chatwithjwb.com. And now it is time for the roll call. You ready, GC?
Oh, buddy, you're going to bring it. I can see it. You're going to bring it today on the roll call. I can tell.
Can you tell that my brain is on fire? All right. Welcome, John Hennon. Good afternoon. Leo, good morning from California. Joanna, our community manager, is in the house. If you need anything, let her know in the chat. She can get it for you. Carl Thompson, welcome back, Carl. Lee Bishop, the MVP of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, is in the house. Nadeem Shah, good afternoon, good morning from the West Coast. Drew Barnhill's in the house from Georgia. Jaguars put Pittsburgh in the playoffs. That's right. That's right, baby. That's poetic justice. Jen Filzen, the fairy godmother of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, is in the house. Who else we got in here? Who has not checked in? Peter James from the esteemed Commonwealth of Virginia. You rock, Peter James. Good to have you back. Lewis Hudnell. Here we go, Steelers, says Lewis.
Now we're talking, Lewis. Saw that one.
Yeah, man. We got Bill Shields. Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. Buenas tardes, Bill Shields, to you. Raul Tirado, good afternoon, all. Welcome back, Raul. Good to have you back. Ken Moline, the patriarch of the first family of the Not Your Average Investor Show, is in the house. Man, it feels good. All things are right. When I got you in front of me on a Zoom screen, I got the community checking in. We got Greg Stone. Must have been a great vacation that Pablo took. Greg, you got no idea what the high I'm on right now, man. I'm on like fire. A couple of things happening around me that have me super, super pumped up, but not in the least is a little bit of breaking news from Greg. Big news for the Not Your Average Investor Show. GC, tell him.
You know, guys, we've been on this awesome journey for the last 2 years, and these doors just kind of keep opening for us. And you kind of heard Pablo and I talking, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago about how we jumped into the TV commercial game, and many of you have been making very supportive and also poking fun at us comments along the way, which is totally encouraged here on the show. And so we have another opportunity that we wanted to share with you, just because it's kind of a collective victory for all of us. But our very own Not Your Average Investor Show is actually going to be syndicated simulcast on BOB Radio here in Jacksonville, and that's going to be in the beginning of February. So all of these shows, our Thursday Property of the Week shows, are going to be running here in Jacksonville Thursday at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That drive home hour, and yeah, Pablo and I were just reflecting on it. It's another really cool moment for the show, and hope all of you get to listen in, whether you're driving home or watching it here or on the podcast, because we're expanding our means here within the show.
We're expanding the means. We made it, man. You know, we're alternative investment, we're alternative media, but we're bringing that world we're bringing the mountain to Muhammad, right? Like we are bringing the traditional media world to us because we're just that much better than whatever is on the radio right now. So they're going to carry us, drive home, primetime spot. That means that you, JWB family, you're on the radio, right? Like your names are on the radio, your questions get on the radio. I think it's really, really going to cool. We're going to make everybody jealous that tunes in on the radio that they're not actually joining in. So I fully expect people to coming in. And speaking of people coming in, Marilyn Cotterman's in the house from Homosassa, Florida.
Home of the Manatees.
Welcome, Carlos Andres from Peru, Rosalind Riley from Murrieta, California. We got Hervé in the house. Hervé's back. Fan favorite from the Not Your Average Investor Show, fan appreciation show. Hervé, I think you were everybody on that show was awesome, man. But Hervé, I think your personality and the way that you brought that energy on the show was a real eye opener. GC, now that we got the exciting stuff out of the way, we're gonna be on the radio. Look, Ma, we made it. And I think we go straight into the property of the week. What do you think, man?
Game on. Let's do it.
Now, we magically have whisked ourselves away to 7904 India Avenue, Jacksonville, Florida, 32201. It is a home with a purchase price of $205,000, which is pretty reasonable for a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a estimated lease of $1,300, 2 or 3 year lease for $1,300. We're looking at the picture here. If you're joining us in the future on the radio or you're joining us on the podcast, by the way, if you're joining us on the podcast, I love the appearance of folks that are, we're recently getting this inflow of folks that have been joining us on the podcast that are now joining us live. So if you're listening on the podcast, go to nyais.com. That's Not Your Average Investor Show, nyais.com. Register to show up live on Tuesdays or Thursdays and hang out with us. But for now, we're going to keep going into this property. The beauty of this thing is what JWB sells, which is that money-making asset. Then this one happens to have an estimated conventional financing total cash flow ROI of $134 and an estimated conventional financing total ROI of 8.16%. Let me know in the chat if you're seeing this clear. And GC, you let me know. What do you love about this property, GC?
I thought you'd never ask. You know what I love about this property is the same thing that I loved about last week's property in a slightly different form, right? This one is not a new construction home. This is a renovated home. And for all of those that were here last week, which almost all of you were, which is amazing, right? You heard me talk about how I love both new construction and renovated properties with one caveat. Right now, there is a significant advantage to investing in a renovated turnkey rental property. And that advantage lies in itself because of what's happening with interest rates. Interest rates are incredibly powerful when it comes to the return on investment, first year and second year and fifth year and 10th year and 30th year of you owning these properties. Because if you buy this property with smart debt, with conventional financing, you get the advantage of locking in your interest rate day one, and that interest rate stays the same for as long as you own that asset. It's one of the reasons why I love to buy and hold the asset. And one of the best things that can happen for you, especially in an inflationary time, is for you to buy an asset, get smart debt on it, and keep that debt for the long haul. All right. But what's going on right now, and the reason why I love a renovated property, and the main reason why I love this property so much, is because it's renovated. And renovations right now mean that you can buy this property, you can put it under contract to purchase and lock in your interest rate immediately. You remove interest rate risk. If you buy a new construction property, which I love, I have many of them in my portfolio. The problem with new construction properties compared to renovations right now is that you put it under contract today and you don't close for 4 to 6 months after, because that house has to finish being built. And when that happens, you can't lock your interest rate for maybe 2 to 4 or maybe 5 months from now. Well, in 2 to 4 or 5 months from now, I think, and most people think out there, that interest rates are going to go up because the loose monetary policy of the Fed is coming. Well, I'm not going to say it's going to come to an end, but I'm saying that it is not going to be as loose. It is tightening. What you're seeing and hearing and reading about is the Fed tapering. That means that they are reducing the amount of purchases of bonds and mortgage-backed securities. And while that might be some jumbo that we don't really want to think about because it kind of hurts our heads, just know that when the Fed tapers, that means that is going to have a direct impact on interest rates going up, because the Fed was basically contributing $120 billion of demand towards the products that determine what interest rates are. And when you take that away, that $120 billion a month of demand, you lose a significant amount of demand and the interest rate goes up because that's no longer there. Interest rates were artificially low for a long, long time. And so that's happening. That's the big news. Tapering is happening. They expect to reduce that to 0 by March, meaning that $120 billion a month now will be 0. And they've already signaled that they are planning to raise short-term interest rates 3 to 4 times in 2022. So what this means for all of us is that interest rates are going to go up. All right. And when interest rates go up, I love that we get to talk about this on the property of the week here on Thursday, because we get to look at the evaluation here. You know, Pablo, let's spend some time talking about what just maybe a 1% increase in your interest rate will do to your return on investment. And when you see that, hopefully that reinforces why I think there is an advantage to investing in a renovated property right now, or any property that you could just close on in the next 60 days. That's really what it is. New construction, you just typically can't do that right now.
Let's spend some time talking about that real quick. So anybody following along at home, if you're here in the chat, Joanna shared how you can download this property, direct link. But if you're following along at home, you can go to jwbinventory.com, download this property, and you can fudge with it the same way that I'm doing. Right now, I went from the summary tab to the analysis convention fin tab is what it says here. That's the analysis by conventional financing.
French.
And analysis conventional.
We're going to mess a little bit with the interest rate, right? Right now, it shows that the assumption is 25% down payment. Interest rate assumption is 4%. And, you know, as we had already established, there is this total ROI of 8.16. So GC, what do you want me to do here?
Well, let's take this bit by bit, right? Like, I don't think that interest rates are going to go up a full point in the next 4 months, right? Could they? Sure. But I don't think that's going to happen. What's more likely is that the Fed will raise their interest rates, and the cumulative effect will be, you know, 1/4 point to maybe 1/2 point increases in our interest rates for what is on our mortgages. So let's just say that we have the decision to buy a renovated home right now or a new construction home. And let's just say that the return on investment for both of those is about 8%, which is what it is. Let's bump that 4% interest rate to 4.5%.
So I'm putting in 4.5% here in the field, and it's going to go from 8.16 ROI to 6.81% ROI.
There you go. I mean, that's 1.5% on your property today, right? In the first year. Times, for all of us that buy and hold like I recommend here, times that over the number of years you're planning on holding, 10 or 20 years, right? All because you made a decision today to take advantage of low interest rates. That all signals. There has never been a time I've been more convinced that interest rates are going up over the next 6 to 12 months. You just choose that renovated property today, or any property you can close on today, you get 1.5 points better this year, times 10, times 20 years of holding. And that's why there is an inherent advantage today for renovated properties. And that's why, listen, I bring everything to you guys in full transparency. That's why I have been bringing renovated properties the last few weeks. When I started to bring renovated properties to you here on the property of the week, almost exclusively, it was when the Fed came out and said, we are aggressively reducing the amount of bond and mortgage-backed security purchases. And there, in my mind, I'm like, okay, how can I be the best resource for all of you? Let's focus on what we can close in the next 60 days. And there you see why.
You know, I hadn't put 2 and 2 together there, GC, but that makes a lot of sense. We have been doing renovated properties ever since the Fed showed their cards, right? So we got a very relevant question here in the Q&A. So Raul asked the question, GC, is this property available?
Well, you know what? So let me take that question and go a little bit farther than that. Pablo and myself are going to plan this out on Thursday. We're going to change how we plan for the shows on Thursday, so that when I get asked that question, the answer is always going to be yes in the future. It's always going to be yes in the future. Like with most things, though, it takes a little bit of time to get there. And so this one, of course, I prepare, you know, a week or 2 in advance for these properties. By the time, that was the old way of preparing. That won't be the new way. So this one on India Avenue actually was just put under contract yesterday by a client. However, I have looked at the available properties in JWB right now, and I can tell you that there are at least 5 to 7 other properties that have the same characteristics as this one on India Avenue. So if you are believing in what I'm sharing and you like this property on India Avenue, just reach out to your portfolio manager if you're a current client, or if you're not a client yet, go to chatwithjwb.com because the basic tenets of what we're describing here ring true, and you'll have the opportunity to invest in one just like it.
There you go. But you see, I wish this one was available, man. I kind of want it. So, all right. Lee's got a question here in the chat. MVP of the Natural Average Investor Show community. Greg, this house was built in 1956, and it will have an update reading of 2021, 2022, depending. But will the tax rates be based on the upgrades or the 1956 assessment?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's all about how property taxes are assessed, right? Now, with renovated homes, you have more of a kind of a guideline or an inkling of what your future your property taxes are going to be than you do if you were going with a brand new construction home. So the way that we look at a renovated home as far as property taxes is we're looking to see what the previous year's tax base was. And then we also adjust up based on our experience in that neighborhood. And so you have more of an inkling. In fact, Pablo, if you want to go ahead and just click on the property taxes cell, which I think is B26. I think we even keep the formula in there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there you go. So you see that 2380.97. That is, I believe that is our estimate based on what the previous taxes were. We probably bump that up based on our experience. And then the 211.8 is actually other fees that, whether or not they're taxes or not, we just call them taxes. They're like stormwater fees and things like that, that we include there in that number, just so you aren't surprised. You know, you don't want to, get particular on what the taxes are, but at the end of the day, you've got an extra $211 coming out of your cash flow because of a stormwater fee. So that's how we do it for renovated homes. We basically take last year's taxes, we remove any exemptions, and then we adjust up based on our experience in that neighborhood. For new construction homes, it's a lot the year before. So you can't do that. Then it would be only assessed at what the land was. But the real benefit that we have, because we do the same thing over and over and over again, is that we have new construction homes that we just built in that, half-mile radius that were then assessed last year. And so then we have those data points for us to be able to look at, because many times new construction homes are assessed differently than renovated homes, or at least the first year. So hopefully that gave you probably a little bit more information than you needed on property taxes, but that's what I tend to do here.
Word of the wise, if you ask Greg anything about taxes, expect a pumped up longer return than you were expecting. All right. So Carlos Andres Lopez is asking, what about for cash purchases? This idea of locking something in right now, is there an extra benefit to a renovated property right now for cash property purchases versus new construction?
No.
Okay. There you go.
How about that? I switched it up on you, huh?
I don't know what to do with myself. Not a one-word answer.
Not unless you're planning on buying that with cash and then refinancing.
There you go. What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, anytime you buy a property with cash, right, you put all of your money into that property, and there might be reasons to do that, right? I can think of one being a 1031 exchange. Like, let's say that you have a whole bunch of money that you need to put in use in a very short time period, and you don't have the ability to go out there and find enough properties with smaller down payments to exhaust that whole bunch of money that you need to put into use in order to get some tax savings. So one strategy is you buy that property all cash, because you have a limited amount of time that you have to put into play in order to take advantage of the tax savings. Well, in that case, or really in any case that you bought a property with cash, if circumstances changed for you and you wanted to free up more capital and you wanted to actually increase your return on investment expectations, well, you could then go to the bank and say, hey, bank, I own this property free and clear. I paid all cash for it. Will you then give me a loan on it? And banks will do that, right? Of course, they're going to look at your credit and all that other good stuff, right? But banks will lend to you, and that's called a refinance. Right? You take a property that you own free and clear, that you bought in cash, you could turn around and let's say 6 months later, you could go to the bank and the bank would give you up to 75% of the value of that property. And so that's a way for you to free up your capital. In fact, this is a strategy that a lot of our friends here on the show have used. fairy godmother of the Not Your Average Investor Show, Ms. Jen Fields, and I know very well has used this strategy. And there's a number of other ones that we have talked to on the show that have basically been able to refinance or pull cash out of their properties in order then to go and make additional purchases of real estate, additional investments, or investments maybe even outside of real estate or whatever capital need you may have. So if all of you are very equity rich at the moment right now would be a great time to look into a refinance, again, because you're pulling that debt out at incredibly low interest rates today. And there's an advantage to doing a refinance today versus doing a refinance 6 months or a year from now.
There you go. You had that one word answer, but I pulled you back to your old self. You're welcome, GC.
And you got me again.
Bill Shields, now speaking in his non-native tongue English, is asking, are there additional savings beyond the lack of risk of locking in your rate with an existing home versus a new construction home?
You know, additional savings, I think the way to maybe reframe that is there a better return on investment, right? Let me answer it the additional savings way first. You know, for a renovated home versus a new construction home, you're going to get to that same 7 to 9% estimated return on investment at the end of the day, but you're going to get there differently. Different things will cost more for a new construction home and different things will cost more for a renovated home. But what you do is you put all those things together and they churn out 7 to 9% returns. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. For a new construction home, you have a higher price. So there's one cost, right? You also have higher property taxes because you have higher prices typically. And so there's some additional expenses there. For renovated homes, you have higher property insurance costs, right? You also have slightly higher maintenance costs for renovated homes than you do for new construction homes. It's not wildly different, but there's a little bit of additional cost, which should make sense for everybody, right? New homes break less than homes that were built in 1950. So expenses wise, you have additional expenses on the new construction side or on the renovation side. I think the question really should be return on investment though. And like I was mentioning, you get to that 7 to 9% return on investment, either if you're investing in a renovated home or a new construction home. And at the core of that, that's why I love them both in normal times. This is not a normal time right now. This might be the only time that you're going to hear me say, I love one over another, really. And that's because this interest rate risk is a lot higher for something that you can't close on for 4 to 6 months versus one that you can close on and lock in your interest rate immediately. So that's really the only difference. And the reason why I'm going stronger and recommending that all of our investors who are thinking about buying properties now and over the next 2 months, if that's the best thing for your buying plan, strongly consider renovated homes because I think it's going to help you.
You know, GC, I kind of, as you're giving this advice, I think of kind of a catch-22 scenario. You're going, I've never seen you go this hard at renovated versus new construction. And as an investor that isn't as acutely educated as most people in our ecosystem, right? Like I'm thinking from my idiot brain, you know, if I'm hearing it and I think, all right, well, if I call up JWB right now and they've got a bunch of new construction and there isn't a renovated one available, do I then say, nah, then I want to wait till there's a renovated? It's kind of a catch-22 of just like, if you wait, is there a downside to waiting for a renovated property to come up if, let's say, you run out of renovated properties for a month?
You know, I just don't see that happening, right? We have enough renovated homes right now that I don't think you'll get that message from JWB, but I think your question is great, right? To me, it comes down to your ability to close quickly. Whatever your ability is to close quickly. In generalities, right? Buying or putting a new construction home under contract right now doesn't mean that you're actually going to lock in your interest rate for maybe 2 to maybe 5 months from now. And so that's generally what that would be. And there's more interest rate risk there. For renovations, like we've talked about, you don't have that same interest rate risk. But that's not always the way it is, right? There may be new construction homes that we may have available that may have a much shorter timeline, right? It does happen. So the moral of the story here is to talk to us, right? If this is the right time for you, talk to us. Talk to your portfolio manager if you're a current client. If you're not a client yet, get on the phone. Let's start having these conversations. And like I said, kind of my first thought here is we haven't had a client that's called us since I've been going strong with this message really over the last 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks ago or so. We haven't had a client who called us and said, you know what, Greg, I've been listening to you. I really get what you're saying. I want to limit my interest rate risk. I want to acquire an asset that I can close on in the next 60 days. Can you help us out? We haven't told a single client no. So I don't think we'll tell you no. I think we'll get there. And most of the time it will be a renovated home. Could it be a new construction home? As long as it can close and limit your interest rate risk, that's really what I'm going after.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, if I think it through after I open up my mouth and said something without thinking which I do often, I guess the downside is the upside would be if let's say there is no renovated home to wait or put something on a contract, is the idea that you still, even with new construction, you lock in the price, and prices are going up drastically right now, right? So that is kind of the other side of the equation, right? If that is the only option.
Yeah. And new construction pricing, we understand that prices are going up. So if we're not able to actually sell that house for 4 to 6 months, I don't want to give people the impression that you're putting it under contract for today's pricing, right? The pricing for a new construction home is built so that what we would expect pricing to be in 4 to 6 months when you're closing.
Yeah, I just went over that on Tuesday.
Yeah, so it's not like you have an advantage for doing new construction where you're going to get a huge discount or a bunch of equity when you walk in versus what it was, what it would be for a renovated home. So it's really just about interest rate risk at that point, and something else we should talk about, a question that I get. I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten it recently as I've been going strong with renovated homes, but people will say, well, don't renovated homes appreciate slower or not as much as new construction homes, right? And the reality, it depends on how you look at this, right? New construction home, it depends on what the overall market's doing and the shortness of your time frame. If you're looking at this 1 year after the next, will a new construction home potentially appreciate more than a renovated home over the next year? Maybe it could, right? New construction, it depends on what the supply of new construction homes is in your neighborhood versus renovated homes and things of that nature. Could it happen over a 1 year time span? Yeah, maybe, right? Could it not? Could you also have higher appreciation in a renovated home than a new construction home over a 1 year time span? Yes, you could. I could show you many examples of neighborhoods where that's happened as well. So you don't really know in the short run. The way I make all of my decisions and the way my team makes our decisions is based on the long run. 10 to 20 year hold is how you're going to make the best. You're going to get the most out of your 5 profit centers in rental properties. And what people fail to remember is that a new construction home is only new construction today. It's only thought of new construction probably for the next couple of years, right? 10, 20 years down the road, you're not going to be calling it a new construction home. And just like 10, 20 years ago, we don't call homes that were built in 2000 new construction homes anymore. So, and at the end of the day, there's no data to show that homes that were built 20 years ago appreciate more than homes that were built 40 years ago. That's just not how it works. So there's not appreciation differences if you subscribe to the theory of buying and holding for a long period of time. And really, the only time that I would say you would even take kind of new construction or renovations into account is more of kind of like a flipping mentality. If you're really buying it today and selling it tomorrow or in a year from now, which none of our clients do that. And hopefully the folks on this show, really aren't thinking that these properties aren't built for flipping, I will tell you. So if you're thinking about these properties for flipping, not your best thing. This is about buying, holding, and hold on for that full market cycle.
Got it. All right, man. Well, we got a bunch of questions still lined up here. So let's keep rolling into them. We got Steve Lax. Steve, I don't know if I recognize your name from before, so maybe you haven't been here in a while. Maybe you're new. It's good to have you on board here, buddy. He says, switching subjects. If someone takes a HELOC, which I have learned is a home equity line of credit, what percentage of equity must remain on the mortgage?
That's highly dependent. Well, let me kind of clarify what Steve's question is. Thank you so much for this question. Guys, your questions continue to get better and better and better, and it really fires me up. And so just wanted to say thank you. Home equity line of credit is different than a refinance, like we were just talking about. Home equity line of credit is, largely on your primary residence. And if you have equity that's built up, the loan will give you, or the bank will give you, an additional line of credit on your house that's backed by your primary residence. And that's something that they know by and large you're going to make the payments on. So they're going to give you great rates for your home equity line of credit, right? I have one on my own personal house. I just redid my home equity line of credit a few months ago. Take advantage of the equity that's been built up in my own primary home as well. And so the rates that they give you will vary, but they are going to be better than the rates that you get on your mortgages for your conventionally financed purchases of investment properties. Pablo, why do you think that is?
I was so pumped up about Steve being new that I was thinking about
I saw you.
You got me, bro.
I got you. Let me ask you again, because it's a good one. All right. So you got primary homes where you get home equity lines of credit, and your rates and your terms are going to be lower on your home equity lines of credit than the interest rates and terms that you get when you purchase an investment property. So anyways, home equity lines of credit are a wonderful tool to look more into as a way to unlock capital and unlock that equity that you have. The really cool thing is, just because you get a home equity line of credit doesn't mean you have to use it. It cost me $0 to get my home equity line of credit. I didn't even have to pay for an appraisal. And sometimes that is the way it is in your bank, your community bank, right? And so you can just get this line of credit. It's there if you need it. If you see a good investment opportunity, then you can use it. And if not, it doesn't cost you anything. So I really love at least opening those up for you. Now, to Steve's question. Oh man, I think I forgot. I think it was about the terms. Oh, it was LTV.
Steve, I know you're new here. Get used to long-winded answers, buddy. He says, LTV. If someone takes a HELOC, what percentage of equity must remain on the mortgage?
Gosh, man, that was so long-winded, Steve. I apologize.
So long-winded.
Got me fired up. So LTVs can change. Loan to values can change, right? Most recently, I've been at about a 90% LTV, which is very different than the LTV you'll get on your investment properties. Usually that's 75 or 80% LTV on your investment properties. HELOCs generally can go up to 90%. I've even had them up to 100% of the value in the past as well. So, and your interest rates are going to be lower. Interest rates are variable though. They're not fixed. So it's not always one is better than the other. HELOCs are really, really a great strategy to use for a down payment on your property. And then you can refinance into that long-term fixed rate debt over time.
There you go. Steve, welcome to the show. Already adding value to our community. Marilyn Cotterman from Homosassa, Florida.
Home of the manatees.
She asks, how long do you have to own an investment home to be able to refinance?
There's different rules for different lenders. I think there might be, it's called title seasoning. And you can refinance at any time, but they'll give you more of your capital back depending on how long you've owned the property. I think it's either 6 months or a year, Marilyn, but just reach out to our team and we can get you an actual answer on that one with the lenders that we use. And, but yeah, 6 months to a year is a pretty good estimation there.
Cool. All right. Greg Stone's got a question. What are your thoughts on improvements requested by the tenant? For example, a range hood in the kitchen. What do you consider in regards to whether to do it or not?
Suggestions are received, but our mission here is to deliver the best return on investment for you as a client. And within those confines, we want to give a wonderful renting experience to that resident. You can do that. But at the end of the day, we are not going to sacrifice your best return on investment because it would make a resident happy. Our mission is clear.
Yep. All right. Makes sense. Steve signed up to get put to sleep by a story again. He's got a question. Do you renovate multifamily properties?
Do we renovate multifamily properties? We can renovate any type of property. We do not have a lot of multifamily properties available for turnkey purchases though, which might be the way you're going, Steve. And that's just because there's not a lot of multifamily housing stock in the neighborhoods that you want to be investing in Jacksonville. I love multifamilies, but at the end of the day, they're not in our core neighborhoods. They're largely in neighborhoods that don't meet our standards, and we're not willing to go to those neighborhoods. So you won't find a lot of these on the property of the week or investing as a turnkey investor. However, we do property management services for those beyond those who just buy properties for us. Adam was talking about that on the Tuesday show. It's a big part of our business. I think about 25% of all of the properties we manage are from owners who didn't buy from us. And it's this incredible advantage for those to get the same level of property management, even if you didn't buy the property from us. And so with those properties, yes, and we can start to do some type of property turns, or maybe even a light renovation for somebody if they're bringing over a significant number of properties for us. And multifamilies tend to play pretty well there, right? We manage apartment complexes, small apartment complexes, multifamilies, up to about 50 units, I think, is our highest, small apartment complex, and multis, beneath that. So your answer is yes. Long-winded again. We do renovate multifamilies, but you just won't see a lot for sale as far as turnkey properties because of the housing stock.
That was, it was long-winded, but I learned something new there, right? Like, I thought you did a good job of navigating, answering everything that you wanted to answer, not just this question there. That was good. All right. Ken Milline's got a question. When you list an available new built home, do you provide an estimate of completion of construction?
Sure we do. And then guess what? It changes many times, and my team hates missing deadlines. Pablo will tell you, I love deadlines and I hate missing them. I really do. And we know how important it is for us to be able to close with you at that timeline. But, materials and labor on the new construction side is in a condition macro wise that we've never seen before. It is just so hard for builders right now. And we are a part of that. You all are a part of that. So, we caution everybody that we have our best laid plans as far as timelines for you. But if you talk to my team and you've put a property under contract, you probably have that heart to heart where it's like, guys, good chance this gets pushed back. And that's just the state of things. I think over the course of this year, that will get better. We will be back to normally where we can actually hit our new construction timelines and deadlines for you guys. But it's not great right now. And that's just real.
Some straight talk from GC, man. That was some hard hitting authenticity right there. Okay.
Another reason why I love renovations for you guys right now. Again, that's why there's a lot of thought that goes into what we put up here on the Property League for you.
All right, man. I love it, dude. All right. Nadeem Shah asks, how easy is it to rent out a condo, then a single family property?
It all comes down to pricing it right, making sure that the amenities that are there are highlighted appropriately and marketed appropriately. So we wouldn't think that it's easier or harder to rent out a condo or a single family home. You just have to know enough about the market space that you're in, the neighborhood that you're in, to price it right, understand where your unit stacks. And this is something, again, for anybody who maybe you don't see a lot of condos that we sell for turnkey properties as well. Right. I don't remember the last time that we had one. So you're not going to see a lot of that, but we do manage condos for those who have those units, and that we do property management services outside of if you bought it from us. And if anybody's interested in what their rent should be, this is a service that we offer for anybody who calls us and says, hey, I'm interested in property management services. What do you think my home can rent? We have data on 4,300 homes that we manage in Jacksonville. And that's even outside of our core neighborhoods sometimes, when you think about the property management homes that we manage. So we have all these data points. We're happy to share that with you. If you have a property that you'd like to get a rent check on, a rent price check, you can go to jwbpropertymanagement.com, jwbpropertymanagement.com, and then you can go there, and then we'll just give you a rent price check. We'll get on the phone with you, talk about anything you'd like to know as far as that property goes, and see if we're a good fit for management for you.
Yeah, we haven't brought that up very much on the show, this idea that that's like a freebie for anybody that wants property management services. So Joanna, let's cut that out. Let's get it to Gregg so that we can empower that and run some ads to it. Okay. Bill Shields got a question. Is there an advantage of putting 20% down versus 25% outside of closing costs?
Yeah, there is. Why don't we go to our trusty property evaluation, Pablo? I like where you're going there. Let's do this in real time for Bill. Yep. Wonderful question here.
And all right, Bill, so I'm in the analysis just so people can follow along at home. I know, Gregg, I know you're going to say some good stuff here, but following along at home, I'm in the property of the week sheet. You can download it at jwbinventory.com. If you go from summary tab to analysis and conventional financing, I'm over here on H4. Talk to me, Greg.
So let's do two things here. We're going to change this 25 to 20 here in just a second, but then I want you to go to the summary tab because there's another component that we're going to change here. All right.
Okay. I'm back in the summary tab if you're following along at home.
There we go. We'll go back to the conventional financing tab and you can kind of see what our return on investment is. Well, you got to go back to the conventional financing tab. I was just prepping you for the future there, Bob.
So hard. All right, go ahead.
All right. So now we're back here. And that down payment is generically set at 25%. We're going to keep everything else the same. We're going to change that to 20%.
All right. Changing it to 20%. You can also see on the right side the total ROI, right?
That's fine.
So we're going to go from 25 to 20%. Press enter. And ROI just jumped to 9.11% ROI.
Very cool.
Very
Pablo,
cool.
why do you think that happened?
I believe that this is the power of leverage working in your favor, right? Like you're getting more. I don't know. Tell me, is that right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's two interesting things that should jump out to everybody here. The first is your return on investment went up by almost a full point. We like that. That seems like a strong move. But what also happened that might be viewed as a negative?
Cash flow just went down.
Yeah, cash flow went down. When you put less down, you get a larger loan. And a larger loan means that you have a higher payment to make every single month. And so a higher payment to make every single month means that your cash flow is lower. So when you put less down, you're going to get less cash flow. But what's also happening is you take that cash flow, even though it's less, and you put that over what your down payment is, which is also significantly less. It's a better overall return on investment, which is really critical, right? We would rather have 9.11 versus whatever it was, 8.16. So there's a lot of pros, generally more pros than cons when it comes to putting 20% versus 25%. There are some cons to take into account as well. It's not perfect for everybody to do this. But this is telling half of the battle. I want us to look at this with the long-term scope here, the long-term outlook. So Pablo, let's jump over to the summary tab here.
Let's jump over to the summary tab. All right, we're there.
So that 9.11 is where we're at right now, but there's a cell there that still says 0% that we haven't adjusted yet.
Yes, we have not adjusted this yet.
So the long-term appreciation rate in Jacksonville on average is 4.3% per year. And I'm going to save Steve the long-winded explanation about how to adjust and to account for home price appreciation. I'll save it. If he wants to know, he can put the question in there and I'll bore him later. But let's just put that 4.3% appreciation rate in there for that cell for appreciation.
All right. So average appreciation over over a full market cycle in Jacksonville has been 4.3%. We pop this in and shit out 29.04%.
29.04%. So that's 4.3% per year on average. And when you do that, your return on investment is going to skyrocket there to 29%. That's the power of leverage as well. Now let's go back and let's change that. Like, keep this in your head, 29%. Go back and let's change that from 20% to 25%. And see what happens here.
All right. We just went to a total ROI of 24.47%.
So there's about a 5% difference every year now is what we're talking, because you went from 25% down to 20% down. So it's not just that 1% increase by putting less down. If this theory holds true, which it has since 1982, various market cycles have shown us that on average, Jacksonville is going to appreciate about 4% a year, then you're actually giving up a little bit more than 1% if you put 25% down. Now, there is more risk to putting less money down inherently, right? You have more risk of going cash flow negative. So that might not be the right move for you, right? If you're somebody that needs more cash flow right now, maybe you're getting closer to retirement and that's more important, or maybe it's just, it helps you sleep better at night, then maybe 25% is worth it for you. But at least you know sort of what you're giving up, whether it's 20% or 25%, and both are cash flow positive, which is really critical right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Great question, Bill. That's a really, really good opportunity to provide some good education. We're going to chop that up and put that on YouTube as the golden nugget from this episode. Cal is asking where to find the recording of the show. Cal, we right now we are live on Facebook. So if you're in our Facebook group, it is there right now. We also publish it on our YouTube channel in a week. And we also publish it in our podcast in a week. Joanna just reached out to you in the chat with links to all of that if you want to join us, Cal. So that is where you find that. GC, we got 5 minutes. I want to get you out of here under an hour, man. I know you haven't been feeling well, and I don't want to require too much from you. So let's go rapid fire. Drew Barnhill, speaking of HELOCs, have you ever seen a bank willing to issue one on an investment property?
It's really, really rare. I mean, prior to probably a year ago, my answer was no. After the Great Recession, it was no. Prior to the Great Recession, it was yes. When I was a brand new real estate investor, it was one of the ways that I raised capital. I could get a HELOC on an investment property. The Great Recession changed all of that. You are starting to see it very, very rare. JWB now, because we've been doing this for 16 years and we have these relationships locally and some credibility and all that good stuff, we just were able to get home equity lines of credit on our investment properties, but I can't tell you how rare that is. I would say for most folks on this call and listening on the podcast, you're probably not going to be able to do it. Can't hurt to ask, but probably not going to be able to do it. And it would be with a very local lender that you have an incredible amount of trust with. So there you go.
There we go. All right, cool. Rapid fire. Hervé Francois has a question. When closing date on a new home purchase is surpassed because of labor/material shortages, are original sale contract terms still maintained until closing?
Yes, they are. And that's largely to your benefit. We do not have price escalators in our contracts. And that's a very intentional thought. We think that there's more value in us enjoying this process than JWB making an extra dollar. But I'll tell you, other turnkey providers don't all feel that way. The general consensus with builders and turnkey providers out there is that there are price escalators from the moment that you sign a contract with them.
There you go. Nadeem Shah, last question. Can JWB send a list of available properties every week to their clients, or a client has to ask for a list of available properties?
Nadeem, we kind of meet you in the middle there. That's what this property of the week has been. And we built an entire web page based on our properties of the week. The reality is that inventory changes so drastically that it doesn't do anybody any good, really, for us to put a list together to fire it out. It literally would change within 2 or 3 days. And so that's why we put the page together at jwbinventory.com. You're going to see all of the properties of the week, and that is representative of the properties that we have that week. If anybody would like a personalized, look at the investment properties that's right for them based on this moment in time, this day for your portfolio, just give our team a call and we'll be able to have that conversation and be able to share those with you. But it's kind of a middle of the road approach, and that's what jwbinventory.com is for you.
Boom. As we said at the beginning of this call, if you want to find out about owning rental income properties, if you want to find out about best-in-class property management services for rental property investors, and if you want an edge on the Jacksonville market, you just got all of that today in the JWB Rental Income Property of the Week. Next week, we got Oliver Barricad, OG, from the live recorded shows that we did and when we first launched this, but he's talking about something different, GC. What's he talking about?
We are going to be talking about commercial. We're going to be talking about office space here in the Jacksonville market and beyond that. One thing we're really trying to do is to expand our scope, expand our means, expand the tent here on the show, and really rally to become not your average investors beyond just the focus on single family rental properties. And Oliver is an incredible resource to help us do that and understand the commercial space better, what investing options there are, and what he's seeing as long-term trends in the commercial space here in Jacksonville and abroad.
Awesome. Awesome. GC, I want to thank everybody. We had a great show today, man. We never take for granted that you take an hour out of your day to hang out with us in the middle of the workday. So this really means a lot that you're here. Hope to see you in the Facebook group. If you got a question, you want to talk to an expert, go to chatwithjwb.com. GC, I'll give you last words and we'll get out of here under an hour.
Man, I tell you what, not being on the show on Tuesday made me miss it. And Pablo and I haven't been together doing this thing in a week. So, it's great, Pablo, to have you back here. Did want to say another special, very, very special thank you to Isar, Pablo's business partner, for stepping in there. And I want to say thanks to the entire community for showing him the love. It's not easy to fill the shoes of Pablo over there. I can tell you, it's really hard to do what Pablo has done. He makes it look easy there. So I want to say thanks to the community for making him feel welcome. But man, it feels really good to be back here with all of you. So looking forward to the next show.
Adios.
See you, everybody.